sort of reaction you get in a situation when you feel like you took an intentionally hard
Rob,
foul.
is this the one
That's
where he says
competitiveness? That's rivalry.
RG3
That's not
is
hate.
married to a
and
white?
So now, though, when RG3
Yes,
jumps on to the hate train or to the angry train, and now follows along with what we saw from Keith Olbermann, what we saw from Dave Portnoy, as they poured on to Angel Reese to make her the villain in Caitlin Clark's heroic or hero story. Right. The one thing we know about RG3 is he's not
A minor on-court event involving WNBA players quickly grew into a significant media narrative. During a recent match, tensions escalated between Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. Reese shoved one of Clark's teammates, prompting Clark to respond with a foul. Reese reacted dramatically, reminiscent of well-known NBA theatrics, which some attributed to influence from players like LeBron James. This sequence of events prompted widespread discussion and public commentary, especially as social narratives began surfacing around race and favoritism. Notable figures in sports and media began weighing in. Analysts compared Reese's potential in the WNBA to icons like Michael Jordan, drawing both praise and skepticism. Others suggested that Clark, a rising star, receives preferential treatment, which some attribute to her race. Remarks made by sports commentators added fuel to the fire, with one critic implying that a former NFL player's opinions were irrelevant because of his interracial marriage. The statement drew immediate backlash, leading to a public apology.
About RG3 is he's not having conversations at his home about what black women have to endure in this country, about what young black women and athletes like Angel Reese have had to deal with being on the opposite side of Caitlin Clark's rise and ascension into stardom.
But
now, when you look at it, I think A'ja Wilson is the face of the league. A'ja Wilson.
Who's the face of the league?
He said Angel Reese.
Who did he say is the face of the league?
A'ja Wilson.
Okay, you can pause that.
Yeah.
RG3
Attention then turned to another controversial moment. During a match against Indiana Fever, Britney Griner was caught on video allegedly uttering a racially charged phrase aimed at Clark. The footage circulated widely, prompting a major public reaction and drawing criticism from across the sports world. Following this, Griner's past comments about the WNBA environment surfaced. She had previously expressed frustration over the growing crowds attending games featuring Clark. According to Griner, the previously low attendance, peaceful atmosphere had transformed into a noisy, pressurized setting. She criticized the change, suggesting it disrupted players and created an uncomfortable working environment.
You can pause that.
Yeah.
RG3 responds back. RG3 responds back and says, what is that all about? To Ryan Clark's credit, he apologizes about this. Then Britney Griner is playing a game, and this is what Britney Griner calls. I was not going to comment on any of this stuff until this took place. Watch what she says. The entire internet has reacted to this. Here's Britney Griner. They're playing against the Indiana Fever, and look what she's saying. Go ahead, Rob.
Or the ticky-tack fouls that we were talking about earlier today.
Griner's statements also reflected discontent with how the league had evolved, indicating a preference for its earlier, quieter form. Some interpreted this as resistance to the increasing visibility and popularity the league is currently experiencing, driven in large part by Clark's rise. Griner described the fan engagement as overwhelming and even alluded to possible undertones of racial hostility from the crowd. Critics pointed out that such complaints seem misplaced, especially given the WNBA's ongoing struggle to expand its fan base. The broader reaction from sports commentators was one of frustration. Observers argued that Griner and other prominent figures in the league exhibit a sense of entitlement that alienates fans and undermines the sport's growth.
That pretty much sounds like trash effing white girl.
Yeah.
I mean, let's just be honest.
So the whole market reacts to this with Britney Griner, right? And then the other quote, Rob, then I'm going to wrap this up and then I'm going to go to Adam. Put the quote of Britney Griner, what she said about the NBA. This is so funny how all this stuff works out, right? She says, this is from Britney. Every time we play her, there's this commotion, like this loud rumbling from the stands. Turns out it's people, thousands of them, just sitting there, watching.
The incident was also framed as a symbol of deeper issues within the WNBA, such as perceptions of victimhood and resentment. Commentators criticized what they viewed as a culture of grievance and called for a more professional and inclusive approach to the sport. Many emphasized the importance of player behavior in influencing the league's popularity and financial success. Additional scrutiny was placed on Caitlin Clark's earlier comments about privilege and support for diversity. Some viewed her statements as pandering, while others believed it demonstrated awareness. Yet, critics argued that no matter how supportive Clark attempts to be, her race alone may make her a target within a highly racialized narrative dominating the league. The conversation also drifted into the economics of the WNBA. Analysts pointed out the league's consistent financial losses, calling into question the sustainability of its operations. The value of media exposure, viewership numbers, and player marketability were all hot topics, particularly as Clark's presence appeared to boost ratings significantly. As a result of her injury and temporary absence from the game, there is growing curiosity about how her time away will affect viewership and fan interest. Observers predicted that ratings might decline without her presence, further proving her central role in the league's growing attention. Despite comparisons, skeptics were quick to push back against the idea that any current player, including Reese, could reach the iconic status of athletes like Jordan. Historical parallels were drawn, but it was noted that true legacy is earned over time and through unmatched excellence. Some even suggested that, in terms of impact, Clark could play a groundbreaking role similar to Jackie Robinson, revolutionizing the landscape of the WNBA by drawing in a new audience. Discussions continued about the effectiveness of media marketing around Clark and how past players like Diana Taurasi received far less fanfare despite equal or superior skill. The current cultural moment, shaped by movements surrounding gender and representation, is seen as a key factor in the spotlight shining so brightly on today's stars. However, some argued that the WNBA is experiencing artificial popularity driven more by media campaigns than organic interest. Others noted that without continued strong performance from players like Clark, the renewed enthusiasm could fade quickly. The league's challenges extend beyond individual players. Critics pointed to structural issues. Patrick Bet-David challenged these viewpoints during their discussion, emphasizing several key points about professional athletics and fan engagement. His response focused on the fundamental nature of sports entertainment and the role of audience participation in creating revenue and excitement. Bet-David reminded listeners of Griner's previous international imprisonment in Russia, where she faced serious charges before being released through a diplomatic prisoner exchange. This exchange involved trading Victor Boat, an arms dealer convicted of conspiracy charges, highlighting the significance of her eventual freedom. The contrast between experiencing foreign imprisonment and subsequently complaining about enthusiastic American sports fans created a compelling narrative about perspective and gratitude. Someone who endured actual restrictions on liberty might reasonably approach crowd noise and fan engagement differently. Current WNBA financial projections indicate unprecedented growth, with the league potentially reaching billion-dollar valuations for the first time in its history. The comparison to transcendent athletes like Michael Jordan illustrates how exceptional talents naturally generate both excitement and resentment within their respective sports. Jordan faced physical targeting and strategic opposition specifically because his impact was undeniable and measurable. Rising popularity creates opportunities for everyone within an organization when managed properly. Increased revenues from television deals, sponsorships, and ticket sales benefit all participants, not just individual stars who initially attract attention. Griner's assumption that father-daughter pairs cheering at games might engage in racial behavior reveals a perspective that anticipates negative motivations rather than celebrating shared enthusiasm for competitive basketball. This worldview looks for problems rather than appreciating growing support. The WNBA operated for 25 years without significant mainstream attention or financial success. Players became accustomed to minimal scrutiny, low expectations, and limited accountability to paying customers who barely existed in meaningful numbers. Clark's arrival fundamentally changed these dynamics by attracting casual fans who demand entertaining basketball and hold players accountable for their performance. This transition requires adjustment from athletes who previously competed without external pressure. Bet-David's business perspective provided valuable context about customer satisfaction and revenue generation in professional entertainment. Organizations succeed by creating experiences that engage audiences rather than treating spectator enthusiasm as problematic disruption. The prisoner exchange context emphasized the extraordinary measures taken to secure Griner's freedom and return to American basketball. Government negotiations involving convicted criminals demonstrated the value placed on her liberty and opportunity to compete professionally. Someone who experienced international imprisonment and diplomatic rescue might reasonably maintain different priorities regarding crowd noise and fan behavior. The contrast between restricted freedom and professional athletics highlights perspective issues that affect public perception. League growth depends entirely on maintaining the fan interest that Clark has generated through her exciting playing style and competitive achievements. Driving away casual supporters through complaints about enthusiasm would quickly return the organization to previous financial struggles. Players who embrace increased attention and use it to build the sport's popularity create sustainable success for everyone involved. Those who resist mainstream engagement risk undermining the progress that benefits all participants through higher salaries and better working conditions. The timing of these comments proved particularly unfortunate, occurring during the league's most successful financial period. Instead of capitalizing on unprecedented momentum, the focus shifted toward perceived problems rather than obvious opportunities for continued growth. Professional athletes in all sports must balance individual preferences with organizational success and fan expectations. Complaints about audience engagement contradict the fundamental purpose of entertainment businesses that depend on customer satisfaction for revenue generation. The racial dynamics Griner referenced touch on legitimate societal concerns while also risking oversimplification of complex market forces that drive fan interest and media coverage. Success metrics remain objective regardless of demographic consideration. Bet David's response effectively addressed these concerns by acknowledging their complexity while maintaining focus on measurable impacts and professional responsibilities. He avoided dismissing valid issues while also challenging unrealistic expectations about mainstream success. The broader message emphasized appreciation for opportunities that previous generations of women's basketball players never experienced. Current athletes benefit from infrastructure, salaries, and attention that required decades of development and struggle to achieve. Gratitude for professional opportunities, especially following personal adversity, creates better perspectives on the challenges and benefits of mainstream success. The combination of freedom, financial compensation, and public recognition deserves appreciation rather than complaint. The podcast discussion revealed fundamental differences in how athletes approach increased scrutiny and public attention. Some embrace the challenge and opportunity, while others resist the pressure and expectations that accompany professional success. These contrasting viewpoints will likely determine how individual players and the league overall navigate their current period of unprecedented growth and mainstream relevance in American sports culture.